What happens when the son of a police chief believes he's untouchable and attacks a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran in the middle of the day? This cocky man walked into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom convinced that his father's badge would shield him from any punishment. But when Judge Caprio forced his father to choose between his own son and the law, what followed became one of the most unforgettable moments in Providence courtroom history. The defendant stood there grinning as he looked at Judge Caprio and said, "My dad controls this city. You can't do anything to me, old man." The entire courtroom went completely silent. What no one realized was that Police Chief Thomas Cole was seated quietly in the back of the courtroom, watching his son tear apart everything he had spent 35 years building. And the decision he was about to make would shatter hearts, restore faith in justice, and prove that some fathers value principles more than protecting their children's worst mistakes. Before we get into this unbelievable story, less than 5% of you watching are actually subscribed. If you believe in real justice, respecting our veterans, and holding powerful people accountable, hit that subscribe button right now. This story is about to spread everywhere, and you won't want to miss what happens next. It's a cold November morning inside Providence Municipal Court, and Judge Frank Caprio is getting ready for what appears to be an ordinary assault case. At 76 years old, Judge Caprio has handled thousands of cases, but something about this one feels off. The victim is a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran named Robert Martinez. The defendant is 32-year-old Derek Cole, the son of Providence Police Chief Thomas Cole. The case file paints a troubling picture. 3 days earlier, Robert Martinez was walking his dog through Roger Williams Park when Derek Cole, speeding in his BMW, nearly struck him. When Martinez raised his hand to signal him to slow down, Derek slammed on the brakes, stepped out of his car, and confronted the elderly veteran. According to 3 separate witnesses, Derek shoved Martinez to the ground, causing his head to slam into the pavement. When nearby people tried to step in, Derek allegedly shouted, "Do you know who I am? My father is the police chief. Call the cops. I dare you." Then he drove off, leaving the 70-year-old veteran bleeding on the ground. Martinez suffered a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a fractured wrist. He spent 2 nights at Rhode Island Hospital. The incident was caught on a nearby security camera, and when the footage aired on local news, the entire city of Providence demanded justice. The courtroom is packed this morning. Reporters, concerned citizens, veteran advocacy groups, and longtime followers of Judge Caprio's courtroom have filled every seat. There's a buzz in the air, a feeling that something major is about to happen, but here's what no one in that courtroom knows yet. Police Chief Thomas Cole is sitting quietly in the back row, dressed in civilian clothes, his badge hidden. He hasn't told his son he's there, and the reason he came will shock everyone. At exactly 10:30 a.m., the bailiff calls the case. The state of Rhode Island versus Derek Michael Cole, charged with assault and battery on an elderly person. Derek Cole walks in like he owns the room. He's wearing an expensive suit, a designer watch flashing under the courtroom lights, and that smug smirk that makes everyone in the gallery instantly dislike him. He doesn't look apologetic. He doesn't look nervous. He looks irritated that he even has to be there. Behind him follows his attorney, Marcus Richardson, one of Providence's most expensive defense lawyers, the type who makes a living getting wealthy clients out of serious trouble. But then comes the moment that grabs everyone's attention. As Derek walks past Robert Martinez sitting quietly with his Vietnam veteran cap on and his broken wrist supported in a cast, Derek doesn't even look at him. No acknowledgement. No regret. Nothing. Judge Caprio looks up from his paperwork, and those kind eyes that have shown compassion to thousands suddenly turn cold. He's read the case file. He's watched the security footage. And he's already decided that this young man is going to learn a hard lesson today. "Mr. Cole," Judge Caprio begins, his tone calm but firm. "You are charged with assault and battery on an elderly person, specifically Mr. Robert Martinez, a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran. How do you plead?" Derek's attorney jumps to his feet. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty. We believe this is a case of mistaken identity." Judge Caprio raises his hand. "Counselor, I asked your client, not you. Mr. Cole, do you have a voice?" Derek stands, and this is where his arrogance truly shows. He straightens his jacket, looks directly at Judge Caprio with that smirk still on his face, and says, "Not guilty, Your Honor. This whole thing is ridiculous." The word ridiculous hangs in the air like an insult. Judge Caprio slowly removes his glasses, his signature move before delivering a reality check. Ridiculous, he repeats. Mr. Cole, I've reviewed the security footage. I've read the hospital records. I've seen photographs of Mr. Martinez's injuries. Would you like to reconsider calling this case ridiculous? Derek glances at his attorney, who is desperately signaling him to stop talking. But Derek's ego refuses to let him back down. With all due respect, Derek says, and everyone knows disrespect is coming, this is being blown way out of proportion. Some old guy got in my way. I barely touched him, and now I'm being dragged into court like a criminal. The courtroom gasps. He just called a Vietnam veteran some old guy. He just said barely touched him when the man spent 2 nights in the hospital. Judge Caprio carefully places his glasses on the bench. His jaw tightens. Anyone who watches Caught in Providence recognizes this look. This is Judge Caprio when compassion ends and justice begins. And Mr. Cole, Judge Caprio says, his voice calm but heavy with authority, before we continue, I need to understand something. Do you know who Mr. Martinez is? Derek shrugs. Some guy who was in my way. The disrespect is unmistakable. Robert Martinez sits silently. Sitting in the gallery shows no visible reaction. He remains seated with the quiet dignity that comes from a lifetime of service and sacrifice. But around him, fellow veterans in the courtroom are clearly furious. Judge Caprio rises from the bench and walks to the front of the courtroom. This is unusual. When Judge Caprio does this, it means something serious is about to unfold. Mr. Martinez, Judge Caprio says, looking straight at the elderly man. Would you please stand and tell Mr. Cole who you are? Robert Martinez slowly gets to his feet, steadying himself with his uninjured arm. Your Honor, my name is Robert Martinez. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1968 to 1971. I completed 2 tours in Vietnam. I was awarded the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star for valor. I'm a retired Providence firefighter. I've lived in this city for 50 years. And 3 days ago, this man, he gestures toward Derek without making eye contact, assaulted me for no reason other than I asked him to slow down in a public park. The courtroom is completely silent as Judge Caprio nods respectfully and gestures for Martinez to sit back down. Then he turns his attention to Derek. Mr. Cole, Judge Caprio says, do you understand what you just heard? You assaulted a decorated combat veteran. A man who risked his life for this country. A man who spent 30 years running into burning buildings to save others. And you dismissed him as some old guy who got in your way. Derek's smirk begins to fade, but the arrogance is still there. Your Honor, I didn't know he was a veteran, Derek says. How was I supposed to know? Judge Caprio's response is instant and crushing. Mr. Cole, it should not matter whether he's a veteran or not. Assault is assault. But the fact that you believe it only matters if you knew his service record tells me everything I need to know about your character. But before revealing what Judge Caprio does next, let me ask you something. In the comments, tell me, have you or someone you love ever been disrespected because of their age? Have you witnessed young people treating elders with contempt? Share your experience, because this case is bigger than one courtroom. It's about respect, dignity, and how we treat those who came before us. Derek's attorney jumps in, trying desperately to regain control. Your Honor, my client is young and used poor wording, but the evidence will show evidence? Judge Caprio cuts him off. Counselor, I've already seen the evidence. In fact, let's all watch it together. He signals to the court clerk, who begins playing the security camera footage on the courtroom screen. The room watches in total silence. The video shows Derek's BMW racing through the park, nearly striking Martinez. It shows the veteran raising his hand. It shows Derek slamming on the brakes, stepping out of the car, and violently shoving the 70-year-old man to the ground. The footage is crystal clear. The assault is undeniable. It even shows Derek standing over Martinez, pointing at him while shouting, before calmly getting back into his car and driving away. It's damning. When the video ends, Judge Caprio looks directly at Derek. Do you still think this is ridiculous, Mr. Cole? Derek's face has gone pale. His attorney leans in, whispering urgently. But Derek's ego, the dangerous mix of privilege and entitlement, refuses to fully surrender. Your Honor, Derek says, his voice now unsteady, I was having a bad day. I just received some bad news. I wasn't thinking clearly. Judge Caprio's eyes narrow. A bad day, Mr. Cole? I've been on this bench for over 30 years. I've seen people who lost their jobs, their homes, even their children. And you know what they don't do? They don't assault elderly veterans because they're having a bad day. Judge Caprio steps closer, closing the distance between them. Let me tell you what I believe happened, Mr. Cole. I believe you've spent your entire life thinking you're special. I believe your father's position has protected you from consequences. I believe you've never truly been held accountable, and I believe you walked into my courtroom today expecting that protection to continue. Derek tries to interrupt. Judge Caprio raises his hand. I'm not finished. You see, Mr. Cole, I've dealt with people like you before. People who think their last name, their family's power, or their money makes them untouchable. But here's the lesson you're about to learn. In my courtroom, none of that matters. What matters is the law. What matters is justice. What matters is treating every human being with dignity and respect. And this is where the story takes a turn no one expects. Judge Caprio pauses, looks toward the back of the courtroom, and says something that makes Derek's blood run cold. Chief Cole, Judge Caprio calls out. Would you please come forward? The entire courtroom turns. Standing slowly from the back row is Police Chief Thomas Cole. He's been there the entire time. He heard every word his son spoke. He watched the lack of remorse. And the expression on his face isn't anger, it's heartbreak. Derek spins around, and for the first time since entering the courtroom, his confidence collapses. Dad, what are you doing here? Chief Cole walks down the center aisle, every step heavy with the weight of 35 years in law enforcement. He's in his late 50s, gray at the temples, dressed in a plain button-down shirt and slacks. No uniform. No badge. Just a father watching his son dismantle everything he taught him. Judge Caprio addresses him with genuine respect. Chief Cole, thank you for being here. I know this can't be easy. Chief Cole stands straight, his training evident. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to be present. Derek is panicking now. His lawyer looks stunned. The gallery is holding its breath. What is happening? Judge Caprio continues. Chief, your son seems to believe that your position will shield him from the consequences of his actions. He's suggested multiple times that because you oversee law enforcement in this city, he's somehow beyond accountability. I'd like to give you the opportunity to address that belief. The courtroom collectively holds its breath. This is the moment where a father must choose between shielding his son and standing by the principles he has devoted his entire life to. Chief Cole takes a deep breath. When he speaks, his voice is steady, but emotion fills every word. Your Honor, my son is wrong. He has always been wrong about that. I've spent 35 years serving this city. I've arrested drug dealers, murderers, and corrupt officials. I've put my life on the line to protect innocent people and uphold the law. And not once, not a single time, have I ever believed that my badge gave me or my family the right to break those same laws. Derek tries to speak. Dad, the chief raises his hand. The authority in that simple gesture silences his son instantly. Derek, stop. You've said enough. He turns back to Judge Caprio. Your Honor, I watched the security footage the day after this incident. I saw what my son did to Mr. Martinez. I've read the hospital reports. I know exactly what happened. And I'm standing here today not as Police Chief Cole, but as Thomas Cole, a father who failed to teach his son the most important lessons of all: respect, humility, and accountability. His voice cracks slightly. I believed I taught him right from wrong. I believed I showed him what it meant to serve others, to protect the vulnerable, and to treat every person with dignity, no matter their status in life. But somewhere along the way, I failed. He gestures toward his son, and that failure is standing right here. Derek's face collapses. For the first time, tears fill his eyes. Dad, please. Chief Cole turns to him, and what he says next will be remembered in Providence legal history forever. Derek, I love you. You're my son, and that will never change. But love does not mean protecting you from consequences. Love means holding you accountable so you can become the man you're supposed to be. He looks back at Judge Caprio. Your Honor, I am here to say, in this courtroom, that whatever sentence you believe is appropriate, you have my full support. My son assaulted a decorated veteran. He showed no remorse. He disrespected this court, and he disrespected everything I've stood for my entire career. He deserves to face the full weight of the law, and I will not interfere. Then he adds something that sends shockwaves through the room. In fact, if I could, I would ask you to be even more severe than usual. He needs to learn this lesson now, before he hurts someone else. The courtroom erupts in whispers. This is unheard of. A police chief openly asking a judge to throw the book at his own son. Derek is openly crying now. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Chief Cole's voice becomes firm again. Derek, do you know what I did yesterday? Derek shakes his head, tears streaming down his face. I visited Mr. Martinez at his home. I apologized to him on your behalf, even knowing it couldn't undo what you did. I looked him in the eye and told him your actions do not represent the values of this police department or this family. He pauses, and do you know what he said to me? Derek shakes his head again. He said, Chief, your son doesn't need protection. He needs help. Help. The chief nods slowly, and he's right. You don't need me to rescue you. You need to face what you've done and change. Judge Caprio has listened to every word, emotion clearly written on his face. When he speaks, his voice carries the wisdom of more than 3 decades on the bench. Chief Cole, Judge Caprio says, thank you for your courage today. What you've done, placing justice above a parent's instinct to protect their child, requires a level of strength most people will never understand. He turns to Derek. Mr. Cole, do you understand what just happened here? Your father, a man who had the power to make this disappear, chose instead to uphold the law. He chose to honor Mr. Martinez. He chose to honor the badge he's worn for 35 years. That is what integrity looks like. Derek struggles to speak through his tears. Your Honor. I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. Judge Caprio nods. That's the first truthful thing you've said since you entered my courtroom. But being sorry isn't enough, Mr. Cole. Actions carry consequences. And what Judge Caprio says next explains why he's loved by millions around the world. He doesn't just punish, he transforms. He doesn't just enforce the law, he changes hearts. If you believe in this kind of justice, subscribe now, because what comes next is a masterclass in accountability, redemption, and second chances. Derek Michael Cole, Judge Caprio announces, his tone now formal, I find you guilty of assault and battery on an elderly person. This is a serious offense, made even more serious by your lack of remorse when you first appeared before me. He pauses, letting the moment sink in. Here is your sentence. You will serve 90 days in the Providence County Correctional Facility. You will complete 200 hours of community service, specifically working with elderly veterans at the VA hospital. You will attend anger management counseling for 1 year. And you will write a formal letter of apology to Mr. Martinez, to be read aloud in this courtroom, followed by a face-to-face apology to him personally. Derek nods, accepting each condition. Yes, Your Honor. But I'm not finished. Judge Caprio continues, you will also record a video apology that will be posted on the Providence Police Department's social media pages. In that video, you will explain what you did, why it was wrong, and how you are taking responsibility for your actions. He looks directly at Derek. Your father has agreed to this because sunlight is the strongest cure for arrogance. Furthermore, Judge Caprio adds, after completing your sentence, you will speak to recruits at the Providence Police Academy about privilege, accountability, and what happens when you convince yourself you're above the law. Your father will arrange this. You will share your story not to shame you, but to stop other young people from making the same mistakes. The sentence is harsh, but intentional. Every piece designed not only to punish, but to transform. Chief Cole speaks up, Your Honor, if I may add something. Judge Caprio nods. Derek will also be moving out of my house. He's 32 years old. He's been living under my roof, under my protection, under my name. That ends today. He needs to learn to stand on his own, support himself, and understand that privilege is earned, not inherited. Derek looks at his father, devastation written across his face. Dad, it's time, the chief says, his voice breaking. Son, it's time for you to grow up. Judge Caprio turns to Robert Martinez. Mr. Martinez, is there anything you'd like to say? The 70-year-old veteran rises slowly, steadying himself with his good arm. Your Honor, I don't want revenge. I just want this young man to understand that every person he meets deserves respect. Age, rank, position, none of that matters. We're all human beings trying to live with dignity. If he learns that lesson, then this experience will have been worth it. The grace in those words silences the courtroom. Here is a man who was assaulted, hospitalized, and humiliated, offering forgiveness and wisdom instead of anger. Judge Caprio addresses Derek one final time. Mr. Cole, you've just heard a man you assaulted show you more grace than you deserve. I suggest you spend your time in custody thinking about that. Think about the man you want to become. Think about whether you want to remain the person who walked into this courtroom today or become someone your father can be proud of. Court is adjourned. The gavel strikes. AS officers move in to take Derek into custody. Chief Cole steps toward his son. They stand face to face for a long moment. Then the chief does something that breaks everyone's heart. He wraps his arms tightly around his son. I love you, he whispers, loud enough for those nearby to hear. But I love you enough to let you face this. You'll get through it. And when you do, you'll be better. You'll be the man I know you can be. Derek sobs into his father's shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know, son, the chief replies. Now prove it. The officers lead Derek away. Chief Cole stands frozen, watching his son disappear through the courtroom doors, tears streaming down his face. This is what real love looks like. Not shielding someone from consequences, but supporting them through those consequences. Judge Caprio approaches Chief Cole and extends his hand. The two men shake, a moment of mutual respect between two men who dedicated their lives to service. You did the right thing, Judge Caprio says quietly. Chief Cole nods. Doesn't make it hurt any less? No, the judge replies softly. But it makes it worth it. Before the courtroom clears, Judge Caprio makes one final statement. Ladies and gentlemen, what you witnessed today isn't just about one case. It's about the choice we all face when someone we love does wrong. Do we excuse them, protect them, make excuses, or do we love them enough to hold them accountable? He scans the room. Chief Cole could have used his influence to make this disappear. Instead, he chose justice. He chose Mr. Martinez. He chose the values he spent his life defending. That is courage. That is integrity. That is real leadership. The courtroom erupts in applause. People are crying. Veterans rise to salute Chief Cole. Robert Martinez approaches and extends his good hand. Chief, he says, your son is lucky to have a father like you. The chief shakes his hand, overwhelmed. Mr. Martinez, I'm deeply sorry for what he did to you. He'll learn, Martinez says gently. And when he does, he'll make you proud. I can already see it. 6 months later, Derek Cole walks out of the Providence County Correctional Facility a different man. He's lost weight. Gained humility. Found purpose. His 200 hours of service at the VA hospital turn into volunteer work that continues long after his sentence ends. He apologizes to Robert Martinez in a meeting both men describe as healing. Martinez becomes his mentor, teaching him about service, sacrifice, and real strength. Derek's video apology goes viral, viewed over 3 million times. Young people across the country witness what accountability truly looks like. They see what happens when privilege meets justice. They see what real transformation requires. Chief Cole attends every one of Derek's anger management sessions, not because he has to, but because he wants to support his son's change. Their relationship, shattered in that courtroom, slowly rebuilds on honesty and mutual respect, and Derek Cole, the man who once said, "My dad runs this town," now works as an advocate for veteran services, using his story to teach others about privilege, accountability, and redemption. Judge Frank Caprio's decision that day didn't just deliver justice. It saved a life. It healed a family. And it proved that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to protect someone from the consequences they need to face. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video if you honor our veterans and respect the courage it takes to choose justice over comfort. Subscribe for more stories that prove compassion and accountability can exist together, and remember Judge Caprio's words, real love isn't protecting people from consequences, it's supporting them through the consequences that make them better. That's the legacy of Judge Frank Caprio. That's the courage of Chief Thomas Cole, and that's the grace of Robert Martinez. Justice served. Lessons learned. All.